That would be more than enough. Okay. All right. Let's move on to our next question after our summarized spoken text. Let's take our next templated, very important question, which is our essay writing. Now, before we start discussing about our essay writing, may I know how many of you have a little problem in actually understanding the question? Because if you're not able to understand the question, then obviously you won't be able to write down some of the arguments for it. And arguments are like the sole basis of which gets you marks in your essay writing. And after 7th of August, your essay writing marks are going to be very, very important. It's going to be even more important than your write from dictation. It's going to give you maximum marks in your writing, around 25 to 30 marks in your writing. You will only get one question from there, and one question contains a lot of marks from here. So obviously, you now have to focus a lot on the content that you're delivering. Try only write 10% from the template and 90% from your own argument answers. Okay. Now, how many of you have a little bit of difficulty in understanding the questions that you get in your essay writing? Anyone? You can raise your hand just like this, so I can maybe understand how many of you are struggling with the kind of questions that we get. Nobody's struggling with the questions. Okay, Manpreet. Manpreet, Navneet. I feel like only Manpreet. Yeah, yeah, Manpreet.
Ma'am, the sometimes the problem is like the essay is in 4 or 5 lines, like made a little complicated,
Mhm.
and that's like makes a little bit confusion there.
Yeah, I can totally understand. It does get a little more elaborative, and you're not really sure which point we have to take, on the basis of which we have to put forward our arguments. Okay, that's
Yes, ma'am.
completely understandable. Anybody else who's having the same problem as Manpreet? Or everybody's done and dusted? It's clear from everybody's side that essays are almost clear. Okay, let's take a very different question, especially from August predictions. Mm, a long question, I'm just hoping. Okay, let's take this one question. Now, here they're asking us about nowadays people who devote too much time to their job leave very little time for their personal and private life. How widespread is the problem? What problem will this shortage of time cause? Okay, now here, especially Manpreet, just main thing you have to understand from these kind of questions is that what is the main topic of discussion? The main topic is given here in our first line. Okay, the rest of the arguments we can definitely, because if you guys remember, we have to write 4 paragraphs. Okay, in second and third paragraph we have to put forward our arguments. So in second and third paragraph, because we have to put forward our arguments, we have to write at least three sentences. So you can incorporate, you can answer in those 2 to 3 sentences using these questions. Okay, how widespread is the problem? What problem will the shortage of time cause? Okay, now let's first discuss about what are the things, what are the kind of arguments we have to put into our second and third paragraph. Okay, because these 2 paragraphs are the most important paragraphs in our whole topic. Okay, the first one we just have to restate our topic, and the fourth one we have to conclude our topic. Second and the third one are the paragraphs which actually gets us marks in our content. Okay, now the second one, we are supposed to write 3 statements, and in the third one again we're supposed to write 3 statements along with two keywords in each. Now the question here is, people who devote too much time to their job leave very little time for their personal and private life. How widespread is the problem? What problem will the shortage of time cause? Can anybody tell me in your second statement, what kind of arguments do we have to put forward? Like, do we have to write some kind of advantages or disadvantages, or do we have to write some kind of agreement or disagreement, or do we have to talk about the problems and its solution? Anyone? because all the questions that we get in our essay writing are going to be all argumentative type. They're either going to ask you about, please tell us about the advantages and the disadvantages of it, like how there are two parties, one discuss about different thing and the second party discusses about a different thing. In the same way, our argument, our essays, both these paragraphs, they also discuss about the different things. First we'll talk about a different thing and the second one will talk about a different thing. So, can anybody tell me, do we have to discuss about the disadvantages, advantages, agreements, disagreements, or the problems and its solution? Anyone can just unmute themselves and start speaking.
It's
Yes,
about
Manpreet, go ahead.
problems and solutions.
Yes, without what?
Problems and solutions.
Problem and solution. Okay, what is the problem? Can you point that out?
It's about like devoting too much time. Yeah.
Okay, problem is that people are devoting too much time on their
Yeah.
jobs. Okay, and
And yeah.
what are the possible solution if we have to if we have to discuss?
Or like more time management.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Vedat, you have pointed this out perfectly. Firstly, guys, it's very important that you understand what kind of arguments you have to put in. Because I've seen a lot of students, they just try to understand we have to write advantages and disadvantages, but that's not the case. The questions are going to be argumentative type. That does not mean every time you have to write about the advantages and the disadvantages. This question is very different and it is an example of how you're not always supposed to write the advantages and disadvantages. As Vidat has rightly said, that here we have to talk about first the problems and then we will discuss about its possible solutions. And what is the problem? That people are devoting a lot of time to their jobs that will leave a less time, little less time for their personal or private lives. This is the main problem. And then, as I've already told you, that we have to write 3 sentences. So, what are the things that we are going to discuss? Because now you will say that, yes, this is the problem. So, what else? We can't write 3 sentences for those for this one single problem. How are we supposed to write 3 sentences? So, what are we supposed to write in those 3 sentences that will answer Manpreet's question that how widespread is the problem? What problem will the shortage of time cause? Okay, in those 3 sentences, we can discuss about how people devote a lot of time in their jobs, and this is actually a lot problematic, which is prevalent. Prevalent means widespread in a lot of countries. It's not just only in one few community or one society, or we're talking about one country. It's actually a worldwide problem. And what problem will this shortage of time cause? What are the causes of this problem? We will discuss that in those 3 sentences that we're going to put in our second paragraph. And then we are going to write about all the possible solutions in the third paragraph. Now, I feel if you have gone through the template, in our template, I'm just going to talk about the second and third paragraph because I suppose that you all have gone through the templates, and the first and the fourth paragraphs are very easy. You can just restate the topic. Okay, it has long been a subject of discussion that people who devote too much time to their job leave very little time for their personal and private life. This is how we're supposed to write our introduction. Pavitra, I'm gonna send you the, just a minute, just give me a minute. Okay, anyone who don't have or doesn't have the template, I have written it down here in the chat box. Okay, you can just copy paste it from there. The introduction will remain the same. Whatever the topic of the debate is, you just have to restate it. Okay, as it is in the middle of your introduction. Again, don't use a capital letter when you write it because most of the time the first letter starts with capital and you have to write it in the middle of your introduction. So make sure you write it with a small letter. Okay, if in case you're including nowadays, but in this case you don't have to include nowadays, you just can write from here till life. Okay, now let's talk about our second argument. Okay, our second paragraph's argument. We are supposed to write 3 statements, and this is how our second paragraph looks like. Okay, one statement, second statement, third statement, and our fourth statement. Now, the very first statement, here we have to give one argument, then we have to give second argument, and then we have to give third argument in the form of conclusion. Okay, so if you write three different sentences, you will definitely score good marks in your content. If you're aiming for a little lower mark, a little lower band, then you can definitely just restate your conclusion part here. You don't have to write a different one. But if you're aiming for a higher one, you definitely have to use three different sentences, okay, with three very strong arguments. Now in this case, we first will write about what are we going to write about that. Okay, so whenever you're writing, write down that, and that. These are the three things that we're going to write. Australians believe that. Okay? Believe that. That, and then two keywords along with that. So the very first thing, what we can write here, okay? The first thing, on the one hand, proponents say that work-life imbalance is a growing problem, especially in developed countries. Okay? Work-life imbalance is a growing problem, comma, especially in urban and developed especially in urban and developed countries. Okay, this is our first argument. Now, in the second one, where we talk about, it is evident that 70% of Australians believe that. Okay, this is something that I've added manually, but if you don't, you can just remove this part and can write your second argument as it is. Can anybody give me an example of what can you write? How widespread? We have talked about this part here. Okay, in our first argument. Then what problem will the shortage of time cause? We can write it here in this part. Okay, Manpreet, in case you get your question like this, you can definitely first understand, break your question, your arguments, and then work your way towards answering each part, each element of the question. This goes for everyone who's struggling with long questions that you're not really understanding what you're supposed to do with some of the question. You can just include them in your statements here, because you're supposed to write 2 to 3 statements. Okay, so the next answer we're going to write is about this. What problem will the shortage of time cause? So can anybody maybe help me out here? What problem can the shortage of time cause? Anyone? What problem can this shortage of time cause?
Because individuals have a long individuals spending long time on their long shifts at the job, so
Mhm,
that's like time consuming, and then
mhm.
they left out with like less time. I think that's the
Okay, so they're left
cause.
with less time. Okay, with that, yes. Are you saying something?
Yeah, for an example, there could be something like health problems related to it, like stress and all.
Okay, so that is one of the major causes that it can impact their health. Perfect. Anything else? Anyone? Anybody else who wants to add to what Vidat and Manpreet added? That this can reduce their quality time spending with their friends or family, and it can also impact their health. What are the other causes that you can think of if they spend a lot of time on their jobs?
Ma'am, work pressure, like
Mm,
they do
yeah.
a lot of work, so that's
So,
why.
okay, if they do a lot of work or if they devote a lot of time, that can
Yeah.
also cause mental stress. It can include or it can contribute to their stress or anxiety. Perfect. Okay, these are the three things that what problem? These are the three problems. You can write all these three, or you can just add two of them or just one of them according to your understanding, according to your limit. Whatever comes to your head, you can use these kind of statements. So here you can write, for example, as per a recent survey done in Australia, it is evident that 70% of Australians believe that spending more time on spending more time on their jobs reduced quality time with their friends and family, comma, mm, leading to health, health and leading to health problems. Leading to health problems. Okay.
Ma'am, can you
Now,
say leading to chronic?
chronic diseases, yep, long-term
Yes.
diseases. Chronic diseases means leading to long-term diseases, or you can write leading to chronic diseases. Absolutely perfect, yes. Then we're going to write the conclusion part. In a nutshell, it can be concluded. Now, what can be concluded? That this issue has become widespread, particularly because of economic pressure. Okay, it can be concluded that this issue has become widespread or prevalent in most of the developed nations. This issue has become prevalent in most of the developed nations due to the economic pressure. Okay. All right. Now, two keywords that we can add here. Now, guys, again, other factors impacted by the topic are dash and dash. Now we are going to make our argument even more stronger than other than these things, that it can lead to our health problems and this is a common problem in developed countries. What are the other things that it has affected or impacted, that we are going to state it here, other than the topics that we have already talked about, that we have already mentioned in our arguments? Some two other points, okay, which are not very important, but they still should be kept into account. They should be considered too. So what are the two other things that we can write in our keywords? Other factors impacted by the topic are dash and dash.
Ma'am, a family, broken families, and
Family relationships.
it mostly impact on growing kids,
Okay,
growing
family
children.
relationships and
Yep.
that comes under a family relationships, Manpreet. Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Family relationships, and we have not added mental health, so we can write mental health or mental well-being.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. That's
Or we
absolutely.
can say dividing families or something like that.
Yeah, that comes under dividing families.
Because the
Dividing
stress
families.
comes to the family and then escalate the issues there.
Yeah, that means it's impacting our relationships. So yeah,
Yes, yes.
bad relationships or family relationships or and mental well-being, these are the two other
Yep.
factors impacted by the topic. Okay. All right, guys, now since we have discussed about the factors related to the problem, okay, what are the problem, how it's affecting us, what are the causes of it, what are the problems, now let's discuss about the solution, the possible solution. This is how our third paragraph looks like. Okay, on the other hand, again, the whole paragraph is very similar to our second paragraph. On the other hand, many opponents argue that most Americans believe that, hence I'm inclined to argue in favor of my stated stance that. Okay, same thing we can write again here, that, that, and that. Okay, three that, then you write your arguments, 3 arguments, and then you write your 2 keywords. Now here, since we have already understood how who was Vidat? Yeah, Vidat has spoken that first we talked about the problem, then we are going to give the possible solutions. So then we are going to talk about the possible solutions of it. And if anybody can help me here in pointing out the possible solution of this problem, anyone who wants to try? What are the possible solutions um, of a person not spending, how they should be not spending a lot of time in their jobs, and what are the solutions related to this problem?
Spending less time at job and giving more priority to family.
Yeah, individuals should prioritize their family more than their professional lives. Perfect. Another thing, because we have to give 2 more arguments, we have to firstly we have to prioritize our we need to sort out our priorities. Secondly, anybody else, any other statement? Prioritize and time management. Perfect. It's very important that we should manage our time properly, and we should also have some flexible working options to maintain a healthier balance. Perfect. So hence I'm inclined to argue in favor of my stated stance. Stated stance means I am inclined, that means I am ready to support the statement with another statement, another argument. And what is that? That this is a serious problem and we need to address it, right? Otherwise we can have some burnout, or we can have weakened social bonds. Okay, that will add to our problems in the long run. So this is how we can frame our answer. Let's talk about this one. Firstly, on the other hand, many opponents argue that individuals should manage, or should individuals should prioritize their well-being and consider spending quality time with their loved ones. Okay, that's one possible very important solution. Secondly, to illustrate, as per recent academic research, now please make sure, guys, here we have previously written as per a recent survey done in Australia. Okay, we need a recent survey, but here we don't write as per a recent. We write as per recent academic research. I've seen a lot of students adding a here. We don't need an a here. Also, this is not a grammatical mistake. You don't need to add a here extra. Make sure you only write as per recent academic research. Okay, it's just a general research, but here they were talking about a survey which was done in Australia, so we are talking about a very specific thing. That's why we have added an article here. A recent survey, there was a survey, but here it was a academic, it was a normal unspecific academic research. Okay, so we don't add a here. Most Americans believe that. What do they believe? Most Americans believe that uh, seeking flexible. Yes, Vidat, please go on.
Yeah, we can say something like most Americans believe that managing their time through technology, for an example, using Google Calendars to prioritize their task, like how they events, let's say
Yeah,
events.
yeah, perfect. Managing. You can write managing their tasks, managing their tasks using
They
some
use technology.
modern technology, like, okay, modern technology, comma, like. You put a comma before like, okay? And if you're not really sure about, don't write something like that. If you're not sure about if I'm supposed to write a comma or not, but you need a comma before like, okay? Like Google calendars Again, calendar spelling is calendar, D-A-R. You're not supposed to write calendar, D-E-R. D-E-R is incorrect. Calendar, like Google Calendars, can help managing their tasks using some modern technology like Google Calendars, can help maintain a healthier lifestyle. Okay, Google Calendar can help maintain a healthier lifestyle or healthier balance. Balance would be perfect here. Okay. At the end, the last statement. Hence, I'm inclined to argue in favor of my stated stance that working is important or job is important, but it should not come in the place of your social bonds. Okay, it should not interfere with your personal lives, something like that. Okay, hence I'm inclined to argue in favor of my stated stance that working too much can contribute to a lot of stress, comma, and it should be addressed properly. Okay. A lot of stress and it should be addressed properly. Okay. Now, lastly, we are going to write our conclusion part. Again, our conclusion part is a little problematic here since we have already talked about that this is a problem and a solution related topic. And here in our question, we are supposed to write this sentence. Now, this is again is a manual option. You're not supposed to write this part if you're not stating any benefits or drawbacks. So you need to remove this part, okay, yourself, understanding what you've written. From what has been discussed above, in my opinion, it would be wise to say that. Okay, in my opinion, what would be wise to say that? And you can write as it is, whatever you have talked about from your paragraph 2 till your paragraph 3. What have you talked about? You first talked about the widespread problem, that the problem is widespread. The problem is widespread and serious, and it should be and no, not it should be, and employees should from what has been discussed above, in my opinion, it would be wise to say that working or devoting, okay, that's like devoting too much time to their jobs is a widespread problem. Okay, is a widespread problem. Just going to remove this part. Is a widespread and serious problem. Is a widespread and serious problem. And employees should and should prioritize their health and mental well-being above their long working hours. From what has been discussed above, in my opinion, it would be wise to say that devoting too much time to their jobs is a widespread and serious problem, and employees should prioritize their health and mental well-being above their long working hours. Okay, this is the conclusion that we have to write for this topic. Again, our introduction is simple. Our conclusion is also simple. The main problem arises when you're writing your arguments. Now, if someone who's struggling with their grammar, then I would suggest you writing only very simple sentences. Please don't write complex or compound sentences. Write very simple sentences, and for that, you need to practice a little bit. Take some different questions, one based on economy, one based on technology, one based on education, one based on health, one based on personal well being. These are the kind of topics that you need to explore, and then you have to work your way towards building some of the arguments, because one way or other they're going to be very similar to each other. Okay, they are going to talk about some questions that are going to be very relatable and very similar to each other. So if you practice enough with very different topics, then again it won't take you a lot of time or lot of struggle to construct your arguments. Guys, practice. If you practice enough writing or your own statements, if you dedicate at least around 20 minutes in writing only two questions for 2 weeks, you will definitely see an improvement in your arguments. Okay, this is not an impossible job, and this is not a very easy task. Okay, because definitely they have improved the scoring, they have contributed a lot of marks into our content, so we need to prioritize our content. We cannot just write all the templated answer. That's not going to work. If you are aiming for a higher score, then you need to write some of the very solid arguments in order to achieve your desired score. So make sure that you practice enough, that you uh, get better score in your essay writing. Okay, this is one of the most important tasks in our writing that they have now made. Earlier it was our second priority, but now this is one of the most important tasks in our writing. Essay writing, very important. Get maximum marks from our writing after 7th of August. So make sure that you practice enough building your own arguments. The structure, you don't have to worry about the structure because the template will take care of all of that. But make sure that you are practicing enough for how you have to build your sentences, your arguments. All right, everyone. Let's take another question, a very different question. Okay, it's a little challenging question. Let's just discuss about these kind of questions. Okay, also when you're trying to understand the question, try to put yourself in the place and try to think from your own point of view, your own perspective. Okay, use your own critical thinking skills. How or what are you going to face, or what are you going to think or do in that case if you're put in that place? Now the question is, medical technology is responsible for increasing the average life expectancy. Do you think it's a curse or it's a blessing? Now, medical technology, because of the improvement in technology, especially related to the medical field, it is responsible for increasing the average life expectancy. Can anybody tell me what does this term mean, increasing the average life expectancy? What is the meaning of average life, increasing the average life expectancy?
Means we'll live longer.
Will live longer. Yes, absolutely. So do you think it's a curse or a blessing? So how are we going to write our answer? Are we going to talk about the advantages, disadvantages, the agreement or the disagreements, or the problem and the solution? Okay,
First,
what kind of question is it?
first we'll
Yeah,
talk about the positive points, the advantage, and then negative points, I think.
absolutely. Perfect, Manpreet. Yes, we'll talk about all the positive means, the blessing points, and then we'll talk about the curse means, the disadvantages, the bad points, the drawbacks of it. Talk about the benefits, then we'll talk about the drawbacks. Okay. Why do you think, just for a normal conversation, why do you think that increasing the average life expectancy is actually a blessing, guys? Why do you personally feel that it is a blessing? Please give me one argument.
Because the medical technology is a great it's a great like helping hand in the medical field, has given us lots of like fast machines that can scan like MRI and x-rays within a seconds.
Okay, but Manpreet, they're asking you, why do you think? Why do you think it's a blessing? They're not asking you how it is a blessing. You're giving me answers for how it is a blessing, because they have introduced a lot of MRI scans. They can scan the diseases and we can get free of diseases. That's obviously that's a benefit point. But why do you think it's a blessing that if we're living longer, then what's the point? What is the benefit in living longer? Yes, Vedat.
It's about increasing the reliability of the technology. So it gives positive, some positive thoughts of going for the medical technology and getting it done, whatever the disease, cure it through the technology, something like
Exactly.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Manpreet, I think, was there almost, but Vedat, you have touched the perfect point here. That means we can extend human lives, and extended human lives means that we're actually near the technology. It means improved healthcare outcomes. Okay, and if the healthcare is improved, then you will be able to detect some of the diseases from early on, and there would be very easy transplantation or very easy surgeries in the long run, especially in the future. So that's like an advancement that will benefit all the humankind. Okay, so that
Like
is definitely
finding the, like for example, finding the cancer on the first stage, like
exactly
before it. Okay, yeah.
absolutely
Okay,
correct.
goes in the
Yes,
last stage. Yeah. Okay.
that means just detecting the diseases from early on.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
perfectly fine.
Okay.
That's exactly,
Detecting
these
diseases
are
from
the,
early stage. Yeah.
that is the blessing, that is the blessing. Perfect. Now let's talk about, why do you think it is a curse? Why is it a curse? Like, why is it not something which should be there? Yes, with that.
Yeah, sometimes it leads to overthinking.
It's
And
too costly too.
Okay, it's costly. Yes, a good point. It's costly because not everybody can afford it, and it would definitely create some gaps between the
Yeah.
poor and the rich that would lead to some inequality in our society. Definitely one of the very important topics. Another thing,
Curse also can be that like it's people are depending on it too much.
mhm,
People are depend on the technology too much rather than relying on the.
okay, guys, the question here is, you're increasing the average life expectancy. Okay, if a person who was supposed to die at the age of 90, now they're living a lot longer life, let's say about 120. So, what are the drawbacks of living a really long life?
your body becomes weak and something like that.
Okay, you can say that there are going to be some ethical dilemmas. Okay, ethical dilemmas, as in, if there are going to be some really old people, it is going to affect the population of the country, right? There are not going to be a lot of younger generation, but there are going to be a lot of old generation. So you can say that it is going to be an unintended problem, such as overpopulation. Overpopulation can lead, this is the biggest problem of average increasing the life expectancy, that older generation will be much bigger than the younger generation, which is not something that a country would want, right? So that is one of the biggest drawback, biggest curse of this advancement in medical technology. Another thing is that, as Manpreet mentioned, that it's going to create a longer gap, a wider gap between the rich and the poor. Thirdly, we can add is that, especially after overpopulation, if there are a lot of people, and as Vidat says, that since people are living longer and they're going to be weak, so definitely we would need a lot of healthcare infrastructure. Okay, with lot of old people living around us, so we will definitely need to advance our medical infrastructure, which will require a lot of money or a lot of finances, which is uh, not ethical, we can say. Okay, something which is not important, that we can just use that money in something better. So that is going to be a curse in the long run. Okay, so these are the points that we can use while we are structurizing our response, while we're talking about all the drawbacks. Now, in the conclusion part, what can we write in the conclusion part? From what has been discussed above, it would be wise to say that firstly, we are going to write as it is, that there are more benefits than the drawbacks. Okay, so in my opinion, it would be wise to say that. What can we write in our opinion point, the last conclusion point? Anyone? Navneet?
Ma'am, it will increase the like a benefit. Medical technology has the lot of benefit, but
Yeah,
but it's a impact on other like a population and other.
yeah. Or Navneet, what you can do, you can just write, you can just uh, support one stance, which is, as we have already said, that we are talking about the benefits, that there are more benefits. So you can just come on to a one stance instead of just supporting both the stances. You can just say, lastly, in my opinion, it would be wise to say that medical technology is indeed a blessing. Okay, because it extends life, human life. Okay, that's it. We don't have to write both the points here, because we are definitely in our advantages and disadvantages. It is actually a benefit for us that we can just restate our topic in these kind of questions. We don't have to think, or we don't have to come to a neutral stance. We can just support one thing, that if there are drawbacks, we are going to focus on the drawbacks. If there are advantages, we're going to focus on the advantages. So here you can definitely just focus on the advantages of it.
Medical technology is improved the inequality of life, that is
Yes,
improved.
exactly. It has improved the quality of life, and it is indeed a blessing.
Yes.
Okay, absolutely perfect. Yes. Um. Okay. Let's try and take a different question if we can. Um. I was hoping if we can find. Okay, yeah, this is a good topic. Tourism is good for less developed country, but disadvantages of tourism can be as great as advantages. Now, here clearly we're going to talk about all the first advantages, and then we're going to talk about the disadvantages. Okay, what are the advantages of tourism for a less developed country? Obviously, it will boost the economy, and it will also help the poor people if there are a lot of tourists in their country. So it will definitely give them a stable income in the long run. And what are the disadvantages of tourism, especially in less developed country? Can anybody tell me?
Its effect on like a population grow, increase population, like air pollution, and when we use.
Yeah,
Economy
pollution.
growth, ma'am.
No. We're talking about the disadvantages, Manpreet. So we're
Okay,
gonna
ma'am.
talk about
Okay.
all
The
the
crime,
points.
ma'am. Crime. Also
Yeah,
increase the crime.
increased crimes, yes, increased crimes, and also bad reputation of the country. Okay, if it is a less developed country and there are a lot of tourists, so definitely we can expect that they're not going to be all going to be very good with them, and it could lead to a negative publicity of the country. Okay, other
And
than that,
pollution also, ma'am.
pollution, it can also affect our environment. Okay, for the less developed country, if there are a lot of people and they don't have a lot of resources, then it could definitely impact them on the basis of if there are a lot of pollution or if there are a lot of health hazards, so they won't be able to manage it properly. Okay, so these are some of the disadvantages of it. And when you're writing the conclusion part, you can write what we have discussed. The benefits are more than the drawbacks. Lastly, in my opinion, it would be wise to say that. Now, here in this part, what are you going to write? It would be wise to say that for this. At the end, when we're concluding our point, from what we have discussed, the benefits are more than the drawbacks. Lastly, in my opinion, it would be wise to say that tourism in a less developed country can be a blessing, okay, but the government of that country should plan some or should implement some practices or policies before some strategic planning and sustainable practices to ensure the smooth running of the country. Okay, these are the statements, these are some of the things that you can write. You have to write them manually in order to get maximum marks for your content. Okay, again, since we're talking about disadvantages and advantages, we're not talking about the benefits or the drawbacks of it. We're talking about the advantages. We have discussed both advantages and disadvantages, and in these kind of questions, again, at the end, you can definitely write, and yes, there are a lot of advantages more than the disadvantages, but according to me, in my opinion, I would like to say that tourism can be a blessing for less developed countries if strategic planning is practiced. Okay, if strategic planning or sustainable practices are implemented in the country. Okay, all right. Okay, guys, we have discussed two questions, two very important questions in today's class. Both of them are templated questions. Now, if you guys have any questions related to the two tasks that we have discussed, then please let me know.
Ma'am, 451.
For the essay topic,
Yes, ma'am.
let's talk about this. What is your opinion on the necessity of space laws and governance? Okay, so first understand the question. What are they saying? They're asking about the opinions. Okay, now again, thank you, Navneet, for this kind of question. Now you will definitely get questions like this also. First, you can
But
get
I
questions.
don't know about the space laws. So
Okay,
that's why.
space laws is, it actually means like NASA. Okay, NASA, which is a really big organization in America. They make spaceships and they send people onto other planets. That is space. And what are the laws related to it? Means that will ensure the proper and the smooth running of these actions taken. Okay, of going to another a different planet or going into the space, that requires some kind of laws and governance. So do you think this is a necessary step, or do you think it is necessary, this is important, if there should be laws and governance? So in the second part, means in your second paragraph, you're first going to talk about yes, I do agree. This is a question where you first agree and then you disagree. Okay, you first write all the agreement points and then you write all the disagreement points. In your agreement points, you talk about all the benefits of it. For example, yes, I do think space laws are very important. Why are they important? For the smooth running of the actions. Secondly, it will also reduce some of the conflicts between people. And thirdly, at the end, you can ensure that there is a fair play and fair chance at the institute or at the organization where they explore these kind of actions of space laws. So it will ensure that there's a proper and a smooth functioning of everything that takes place into that organization. So yes, space laws and governance is actually very important. For example, in a country, why are laws and governance important? For the smooth running of things. Okay, if there are some crimes, so people can report it if there are certain laws or rules. If there are no laws and rules, then people would definitely be they would create a nuisance and it would be not good for other people. So we definitely need laws and governance for the proper and for the smooth running of functions. So that is the importance. Now, what are the disagreement points? What are we going to write if we don't agree that no, some of the laws and governance are not important? So can anybody tell me what are we going to write if we are disagreeing that there is actually not a lot of necessity of space laws and governance? Anyone who can point out one of the most important things, that space laws and governance are not important? First, we talked about why they are important. Now we're going to talk about why they're not important or the drawbacks of these. laws and governance? Anyone?
I mean, it is effect on our environment, so that's why it's not important.
Okay, let's think of it this way, Navneet. If there are lot of laws in our country, okay,
Yes.
how will it affect the citizens?
Like,
See, if there are too many laws, too many extreme laws, okay, so how will it affect the citizens?
Ma'am, citizens won't feel any freedom of their human rights anymore.
Exactly. People will not be free. They won't feel. They will be bounded by some things. And if they feel that there's a foundation of doing something, that definitely new discoveries won't take place. Right?
okay.
Especially that's one of the most important thing. If there are a lot of rules, lot of regulation, then scientists, what would they do? They would just give up. Instead of discovering or inventing something, they would just give up, because they won't feel motivated. If there are a lot of laws, lot of regulations surrounding those actions, then they would just at the end of the day they would give up doing anything. Okay, so that would make them that would result in lack of motivation among inventors or scientists especially, or people working in that organization. Okay, secondly, if there are lot of rules or regulations, then people can also uh, mistake, or they can also misinterpret some of the things. If something has been said in a normal manner, they there could be a chance of misinterpretation, and there could be a chance of conflicts in that organization if there are a lot of laws and lot of rules. And also that would result in, if only some of the laws are only favoring one side and it's actually being biased, then it would eventually affect the smooth running, okay, in the long term. So having laws is a good thing, but having a lot of laws is a bad thing too. So we can write down both the aspects, both the point of views in
Ma'am,
this question.
can we say having lots of restrictions or laws implemented on individuals will conflict? Like some will agree to the laws, or some will disagree, and some will be in like liking or disliking indeed.
Yes, definitely. It will arise conflicts, definitely.
Yes.
If there are a lot of laws, let's just look at from our point of view. If there are a lot of laws in our own home,
Naturally.
then
Yep.
we won't feel
Yep.
free. And
Freedom.
secondly, it
Yes.
would definitely arise some conflicts among the people working in
Yep.
there or living in there, right? So
True.
these are the things that you can add. Now, again, when whatever question you get, try to use your own perception, try to use your own point of view, and then write down your answers for it. Okay, the questions are very easy. They're not very complex, but you have to use a little bit of your critical thinking analysis in stating and writing your own arguments. All right. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, then please let me know. Or while you're practicing, maybe if you're not really sure about some of the question, what you can do is that if you use ChatGPT, you can use its help. It will really give you some of the arguments that you need and some really solid, very important arguments that you can practice with. Okay, ChatGPT will help you in understanding how you have to write your answers, and especially with some really difficult topics. Okay, and if you're still not able to understand, you can definitely reach out to me on my WhatsApp. I will definitely try and help you out with some of the question, but the main thing is that you first practice it yourself, implement all the strategies, try to write down your own arguments, and then check it. If you're using correct answers, if you're using your correct grammar, if you're using proper punctuation, these are the things that you need to improve yourself. Okay. Again, if you have many problems, then you can definitely come and reach out to me. I am here to help. Any of the tutors you will reach out, they're here to help you all. Okay. Don't hesitate in asking. Do well, prepare well for your exams, and if there's any question, then we are here to help you out. Okay, we have discussed 2 questions in our today's class. Both of them are template related questions. So in case if you have any problem with your templates, then you can just be sure that you firstly have to rely on the question, your skills, and then use your templates. Templates are again only for your structurized response. You don't have to memorize them, you have to understand them, especially with your summarized spoken text. Essay writing, you definitely have to memorize some of it, because 20% is your or template, which will actually be helpful for you in building your vocabulary and structure, and it will also definitely save some time of yours while you're writing your essay. So make sure that you practice your template for your essay writing, which is very important, and then you start building your answers in a way that it makes sense. Okay, in my opinion, what you can do is write down your first arguments and then you write down your template, so it will save you a lot of time, okay, in thinking. Because what happens if you just keep on writing with the template and start thinking, you may not notice, but you will definitely do some mistakes in maybe your spelling or punctuations. So make sure first you write down some of the arguments and then you write your template. So you can just copy paste, because you will definitely get the time to copy paste, and you have the liberty to copy paste it from your response. Definitely not from the question, but from your response box. Yes, you can copy paste some of the things from there. So that's what you can do. Even while you're practicing, try to practice while writing your arguments first, or you can just do some arguments first and then start writing with your template. Okay. All right. If you guys don't have any questions, so we can just end this session, or if you have, then please let me know, guys.